Thank you for letting me use the space, and thank you for giving your time, since you're a very busy person.
My name's Rohan. I'm co-managing director for Futureheads Recruitment and Synced. So we are a digital recruitment specialist in the technology space. So Futureheads is our kind of contingent-based recruitment model, and Synced is our kind of embedded service. I've been with the business for over 10 years now, so most of my working career, working my way through. What makes us kind of interesting is, I guess, we are a B Corp certified business where we kind of balance people, purpose, profit. Recruitment is a space which has a very mixed reputation. So we are kind of a business that kind of really cares about the people we work with, builds long-term relationships, and has a lot of depth to the knowledge of the areas that we work within. So people tend to enjoy working with us, and clients tend to kind of get a really good service and quality of person for their businesses.
When I was choosing the categories, like balance was probably something that I thought you might have something to say, one or two things about. Is that true? Maybe?
Yeah. I guess balance is a tricky thing in recruitment. So yeah, I have been doing it for 12 years. No short stint by any means, but I think I was quite selective when I got into recruitment, knowing that it was going to be hard work, but the long-term kind of benefits and relationships and gains would be great. Certainly you figure out tools and ways to kind of work for yourself to balance, and I think every person is different, so one method doesn't work for everyone, but finding the right balance to do a good job and also to have balance for yourself, I think, is a key area.
But yeah, before we get into more questions, for the other episodes, I basically list 3 of my flaws, because with the series being Perfectly Imperfect, I wanted to basically embrace your flaws, but also so others can learn from your experiences. I think that's really important. As you know, everyone's always like on social media posting their best side and, not really the worst side. So I think it's been very humbling for me to speak to people also in like senior levels who, obviously they've made some flaws, had some like mistakes, but how they've come back from that. And I think people younger hearing that would like benefit them. So I'll start off and then you have to do it afterwards. Yeah, I'm putting you on the spot here. Yeah, so my name's Hayley, and my 3 flaws right now I would say are patience, something I've been struggling with. Also being gullible, something I realized I've been struggling with. Yeah. And making excuses for myself. If I like do something wrong, I'm like, oh, but this could have happened. So I think that I need to focus on being better at. So what about you?
I think... Put me on the spot, but I think 3 of my flaws, I would say probably similarly patience, depending on the situation, but definitely patience in the right circumstances and taking the time to kind of do things the right way and so on and so forth. I think balance is, I wouldn't say I'm greedy, but I like to do everything, and sometimes that kind of comes at kind of a cost of other things. And then I think kind of a flaw of mine is kind of I've got really high expectations, so it's important for me to want to do things really well and to get others to kind of follow that suit, but finding the right way to frame that and bring people on the journey and have the patience to do so, I think is an important thing. So yeah, I'd probably have different thoughts if I had more time to think, but I think those were the 3 that come to mind.
Yeah. Because I feel like also with myself, sometimes what you mentioned about the expectations is like sometimes humans will be extra hard on yourself, and then you accidentally become extra hard on other people, but you don't realize like sometimes it's a bit not fair.
I think that's definitely a trait that I've learned in time as management. I think as my first time managing, I had all of the characteristics of the person who was good at the job but expected everyone to just do what I did, and actually over a period of time and trust and actually managing good people who had that kind of empathy for you and didn't treat you like you were just wronging them and actually understood that you were trying to learn and develop as well, I think was a really good thing. And now I've taken a lot of that kind of into what I do and how I operate now. So yeah, you need good people around you at all levels, and sometimes when you're a senior person you do need good people who can manage up to you as well, and it's not just kind of a hierarchy of because I'm more senior than you, therefore everything I say is what goes. It's good people around you help you become a better person.
Having the right amount, so not too much, not too little of a certain quantity, leading to harmony. What do you think about that? What's your interpretation?
I mean, it sounds quite nice. Sounds quite idealistic. I think similar to kind of people being hard on themselves, and I think people's harshest critics are always themselves when you look in the mirror, and I don't think I'm any different, and I'm sure it's the same for lots of people. I think balance as a concept is really nice, and kind of I'm sure there are points where you can find that perfect level, but I think it's probably like happiness. I think some days people are probably really happy and other days they're not. It's how do you keep trying to find the right kind of place to be within that, and I don't think that ever kind of stops.
Yeah, I think for me as well, like sometimes you think like you can never be 100% fully balanced. Like even if you go to the gym, even if you do the dishes, even if you like do everything on your list that you wanted to do, like, you know, sometimes what I struggled with is like actually having half imperfect, half perfect days, because I always want either the day to go really good, or like if it's a bad day, I'm like, I've accepted it's a bad day. But having those like middle days where it's like half of the day was really good and then the rest of the day was like not that good, I think coming to like acceptance with that's like the thing I think is the most difficult. Like, I don't know what your opinion of that is.
I think, I mean, we were talking about this beforehand. For example, I was supposed to go to the gym before work this morning, and I woke up and I was tired, and you know what? I needed the extra bit of sleep, and that made me feel better for it. Now I'm like, maybe it wasn't the best idea. Can I move my evening plans around a little bit to try and go and do that? Yes, I can if I'm willing to. So I think it's about kind of trusting your gut a little bit on stuff, but also when you want something, trying to find a way then to make it happen. And I think a lot of where people struggle with stuff like balance and sympathise with themselves is they kind of almost go to a mode where I feel sorry for myself rather than, do you know what, I can actually go and do something about this. And I think it's having that bit of you which says, okay, it's not, the world isn't against me, everything isn't going against me, it's kind of, I can go and do something here, let me take the first step in that direction. So I think that's the important bit for me with this stuff is don't be too harsh on yourself, but if you want to go do something, then find a way to motivate yourself to go and take that step, because once you take the step, you usually feel better for it anyway.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you're going from extremes to extremes, like, and having that discipline, like what you said, is kind of, it's a bad day, but, you know, just like move on in a way.
And recruitment's massively like that, right? So I think as you get more experience in recruitment, you start to kind of control your emotional response slightly better. So you'll often find this with people who are starting, like the highs of, for example, you find someone a job, you get them in, and you get a fee out of it, and it's the best feeling in the world. The other side of it is you might have someone who's at final stage and they kind of don't get the job for a really like minimal reason, and you feel kind of quite upset and like you could have done something differently. So it's trying to balance that emotional response, and I think as you get more experienced, hopefully you, through lived experiences, learn that it's not all success or failure. It's kind of a process, and having a process in the middle bit is kind of what makes you find the consistency to be successful.
Yeah, like enjoying the progress and the process.
Yeah, and it's consistency, right? So I'd always use the gym example. Like if you want to kind of, let's say I wanted to go lose 10 pounds, I can't just turn up to the gym tomorrow and expect it to happen. I have to accept that it's going to take a period of time, and there are steps that are going to have to kind of go through in the middle. If I stop halfway through in the 6-month period, I can't be disappointed that I didn't get there because I've just not followed the process that I should have stuck to.
Yeah, I feel like also with balance, like habits play a big like part of it. Like with another gym example, we're going to a gym here, but I remember when I like tried to start going to the gym, it's like, because I'm not in the habit of like going, and it's like you can go for like 3 months and you're like, yeah, this is amazing, but it's like until you're going like for 10 years, 5 years, like that's when your body is like into it, no?
I think there's some data, and there's lots of different kind of things around this in like psychology, but I think there's something, and we argue about this at work sometimes, there's kind of the difference between like trying to create a habit sometimes takes anywhere from, some people's opinions is like 21 days, to some people's it's just like 3 months or something similar. So I think it's it's the motivation to make the habit the thing that you care about. So if it's something you are passionate about, you will find a way to make the habit become the norm. I think if it's something you are doing begrudgingly, you usually have to do something different to make it become the habit rather than the other way around.
Yeah, it's like you don't get something done if you like want to do it. You have to like really, really, really want to do it. Yeah.
Or you have to be so disciplined that you will do it, and that's kind of the way around it.
Yeah, I always used to do like if I did something that I wanted to do, like I feel like the reward system, like give yourself a treat or like don't like that's works for me, but doesn't work for everyone. Like the tick box system, I tried that as well. So yeah, another question I have is how do you maintain discipline and balance it with breaks and like because I always schedule in work. I'm obsessed with scheduling work and meetings, but I apparently don't like myself enough to schedule breaks. So what do you think about that?
I think I've gotten much better at this over time. I think particularly when I was moving through kind of the business and working my way up to things, it was kind of almost I need to do things at all costs in order to kind of be successful and get to where I want to go. And I think so a good example of that is like I'd go on holiday and I'd take my work phone with me and I'd be at dinner and I'm responding to an email.
Been there, done that.
That time, right? So I think part of it is just kind of building it into your schedule, but also trusting your gut. So if you are staring at a screen for too long and your head starts to hurt, you are not better off just kind of cracking through, like go and take 5 minutes. And I think it's not about just kind of taking the break for the sake of taking the break. It's not, okay, I'm going to have a 2-hour break. It's, okay, I need something just to kind of take me away for a second. And I think you do perform better when you almost do things in bursts. And I think people are different. Like I can do a lot of deep work where I feel like I can get my head in and screwed on, but also like I like being distracted sometimes when something's happening with the team or various other things. So I think it comes down to kind of knowing yourself. The discipline you need to kind of make it work should be driven by you. And again, using some of the examples that we've talked about is like if you want something to happen, don't be the person who creates a system that allows it to fail because then you've already lost the battle. Create the system that allows it to work, but work for you. So like a good example is like if you wanted to win at all costs, but you know that you are someone who needs breaks to do that, by not having any breaks, you are doing yourself more harm than you are good. So I think it's important with everything, and again, for people kind of listening, that the first thing that you need to understand is you before you can start implementing anything. And I think lots of people start stuff and then try and figure out a plan later. So
this resonates with me.
They're midway through the plan and it's not working, and then they're frustrated and upset and they lose all motivation for kind of what happens. Whereas I think if you can build something that works for you and stick to it, usually you find it more enjoyable because you can see the progress and hopefully you'll stick to it and that's what I've always done in my career is like I know myself. I know what level of discipline I need to be successful, and you need support around you, and you need the right scenarios and situations for everything to kind of work. You can't force things to happen, particularly with other people or other circumstances, but you can put yourself in the best position all of the time, and more often than not, if you're in the best position, then it's harder to fail than it is to not.
I think, a couple of things that you said resonated with me. That's why I was like, yes, I can relate to this, but it's because I think I get a bit of FOMO sometimes. I don't know if that's for you or like other people out there, but I don't anticipate how tired I'll be, and I think I'm Superwoman. so that's like probably because when you plan stuff like 3 months in advance, 4 months in advance, like you don't know until when you're in the 4th month how you're gonna feel. So I feel like taking a step back and like what you said about taking the time to make a plan and kind of putting yourself in the headspace of where you're going to be when you're at that point. Like I had like 2 crazy back-to-back weeks, and like when I was doing my planning for meeting people, I thought, I'll be fresh as a daisy. No. And then like, I'm like, wait, why didn't I see that I was doing something every day for 2 weeks? Maybe I should have like given myself 2 more days to relax. So now I think that's something I'm definitely going to implement. Like now I'm trying to at least give myself like 1 day, 2 days to just, take that step back. Because like you said, I think people do work better when they are not just like super zoomed into things.
I think this is where you can combine balance and discipline, right? Because I think through the examples that I've talked about, like the discipline was sometimes the thing that made me successful, but the lack of balance was maybe the thing that made it really harder than it needed to be to kind of do it. So I think if for example, you're going to have a busy week ahead, or 2 busy weeks, and you've planned them in advance, like sometimes you have to live it, right? You just have to do it, because actually it would be worse for you to kind of rearrange and go forward with stuff. But I think that flexibility to kind of go, well, look, if I've done something that was really strenuous for 2 weeks, how do I make sure that in that 3rd week I have a bit of a break to kind of recoup, or I'm really like finding always ways with this, particularly with like out of work stuff, is like I like to prioritize work and make sure the work and people I work with are really well looked after and everything in the business kind of runs smoothly. Sometimes that means if I've got plans after work, I'm suddenly doing all kinds of things at different hours. So I think it's finding a way to kind of go, well, look, if I've got a bunch of things over a few days period that are just going to wipe me out, I need to get through them. But then how do I give myself a little bit of a breather as a reward almost for kind of the end of that? And there's nothing wrong with taking that kind of reset moment almost to kind of bring yourself back to level and back to kind of balance. So I think it's important to kind of find a way to, again, know yourself, find a way to balance. Because I think like no one will like compromising on the stuff that they know they want to do. I think you would be frustrated in your examples if you didn't do all that stuff, because you'd feel like you're missing out on something that was important for you. So I think finding a way to do it, but give yourself the time in and around it, or flex.
Me ignoring the signs was a thing for me. So I, like you said, like those trends were popping up. Like I was like, the things I did like doing I started to not like doing them. And I think that was like the biggest sign for me that I realized I was doing too much, because obviously like I love meeting people, I love doing podcasts, I love I think I've been to like so many networking events, I can't even count them on my hands anymore. So I think when it becomes like the thing you love, like a chore that you don't like look forward to it anymore, you don't feel like that, like you want to do it, and kind of the feeling of like you don't acknowledge your own accomplishments, because with me, I'm always accomplishing something like every day, every second. So I don't have to I don't make the time to acknowledge what I've done. So I think that's what also led to my burnout, because I was like, okay, it's just another thing I'm doing, that's good. And I think maybe, I don't know if you think this, but it's like, trying to realize like, oh damn, like I got my first ever paid freelance job. Like what? Like old me would have been so excited about that, but now me is just like, when can I get my next one? So it kind of like that, like I wouldn't say it's greed or being ungrateful, but I don't know how to explain it. It's like, can you help me out? I don't know, like on this.
I think it's a case of, and I used to be quite a lot like this, which is like a yes man, not for the sake of just saying yes for the sake of saying yes, but particularly within my role and my job, and like I said, that kind of not necessarily greed, but that kind of desire to do really well, and it was almost like I couldn't say no to something if a client wanted something, if the team had an opportunity to do something, or there was an event that I could go to and it could accelerate my career. It was almost like, why would I say
like a no-brainer?
Why would I say no to this? But then in the context of things, it's this kind of jigsaw of you've got too many pieces to fit in, and it just won't kind of comply. So I think I think the two skills that I learned that are super important in life and have helped me kind of grow massively are saying yes and no to the right things. And I think sometimes it's the right thing, but it's the wrong time. And there's nothing wrong with that. You can't do everything all the time sometimes, and that again will cost you more sometimes than it will gain you. So saying no to the right things, or not right now, it doesn't have to be a no forever,
Yeah.
just can't be a merciful consequence.
Yeah.
And then I think the other thing that helped me is kind of like taking feedback and applying it. So like if someone is looking at you and working with you and going, you're doing quite a lot, like do you need to balance it out, or like you signed up to a lot of stuff, or you can see the quality diminish in some of the stuff that you do, but you're like, well actually I'd rather do more but less quality, and then realising that doesn't quite add up, and the willingness to accept that feedback, which is actually a lot of the time if you can do less really well, more often than not that means a lot in most scenarios. So
yeah, I mean, it's definitely like, yeah, trying not to take it personally as well, because, yeah, when, like, also, I always do that, like, I can produce, like, 30 videos in 1 week, like you said, but then it's like, they're not saying anything deep, like what you said, and it's like, if I would have used my energy to make, like, 3 deep videos, like, maybe it would have paid off a lot more than the 30 videos. I think that's also one of my feedbacks I got for my degree.
And it's having the time to think, right? So when you get caught up in stuff, it's really easy to go, yeah, we're moving, like stuff's going in the right direction, I'm doing all these things, like it must pay off at some point, but actually you miss the time to kind of think. And that's a really good example there, is like in one mindset you might be, well, 30 videos is way more productive, but actually if 3 videos produces twice the amount of views or reception or whatever metric you are using to measure it by, actually doing those 3 things is way better for you and way healthier for you to do than the other way around. So like I'm a big believer, and I had a non-exec director who I worked with for a period of time who at the time I just couldn't understand why this was the thing that he would always preach to me, but he would come and sit and just talk to me for 15 minutes at a time and try and distract me from everything I was doing, and I just couldn't believe that this person was doing that. But actually what it taught me was, a lot of the time, like sometimes I just need to go and think about things before just going dive into and do them, and I'm quite kind of confident, like if there's a task I can dive into it and get it done to a really good level, but actually sometimes thinking about how I might do it might have 10 times the result.
Yeah, and before I go on to the last question, I just wanted to say, because it reminded me of this, and I don't know if, like me growing up, I feel like I've always been told, you have so much potential, you're going to get to so many places, like you're doing great, and I feel like, I don't know if that kind of fuels it in a way, I don't know, it's like, because in the back of my head, I'm like, I have to do it, I have to, you know. And then after I was thinking about it, like the other day, I was actually in the bath, because it's the only time I have like deep thoughts is when I'm in the bath. And I realized, like, it's not, potential isn't something that you reach one day. And I think for me, because the way it sounds is that you're going to reach your potential, like one day you're just going to get it, like you got it, like I got my potential. But really and truly, it's actually the journey that gets you to where you want to, like, if you want to make it, and like reminding yourself that even you doing what you want to do, like, and stuff, like you are making it, like that every day you do that, like you don't have to be like on the TV to have made it. The fact that you're getting up and doing what you like or want to do, that you already made it, you know, like.
I think it evolves as you go, right? And I'm not saying I'm super old, like I said, I've been doing this for 12 years, but like a lot of the stuff that I planned for in terms of career-wise, I've been able to execute on, but also a lot of the stuff that I planned beyond that and beyond this point and various other things, I don't know what the next directions are sometimes, and it's about kind of, I think, figuring out the next part of your plan as you go. And I think some people go, well, like, I want to be here, and I don't know, let's say I want to be a millionaire and various other things, and it's kind of like almost like if they don't achieve that, their life is a failure. And like, I think it's again, it's kind of that optimism versus like practicality. And I think for a lot of people, it's like you can plan in advance, and it's great to have dreams and it's great to have aspirations. Like, those dreams don't necessarily need to stop. Your dream might just change as you go through your experiences in life and so on and so forth. So I think finding what motivates you and makes you drive towards a goal that is right for you is important. I think sometimes with the potential thing, sometimes people want you to follow their dreams rather than your own, and you see this sometimes in parents who live vicariously through their children and other things. And like, for me, like whatever anyone else wants me to be is kind of irrelevant, like to a degree. Like, don't get me wrong, I want to please as many people as possible, but the first person I want to please is myself, because if I'm not happy doing what I'm doing, then let's forget everyone for a second. That's a pretty hard kind of juncture to kind of get past. So I think you've got to do what's right for you, and actually trust that the people around you who support you, who big you up, will always kind of be there for you no matter what you do, and like, you should do what's right for yourself.
Yeah, like, because you have to live with yourself at the end of the day, like, want what you want for yourself, kind of thing. Okay, well, the last thing we're going to go into was quotes that changed your life. And I say it sounds so dramatic, but one, I can give you an example. It kind of links to what we were saying, but I had a mentor. Having a mentor is so important. And he told me, because he knows I like to do everything, and he just says to me, because obviously I'm starting my own new business as well, and he said, I don't know who quoted it, but it wasn't him. He got the quote from someone else, but it was like, to be like a good entrepreneur, leader, whatever, you have to say like no to like the good ideas. And I think that's kind of what you were saying before, is that, yeah, like there comes a time where you have so many good ideas that it's physically impossible to do all the good ideas. So you have to kind of be selective, which is hard, but to like choose the less good ideas means you can do something great. Whereas if you do like what we said, like all of the good ideas, but saying no to good ideas instead of bad ideas, because usually you think you only say no to the bad ideas, and I feel like that's something everyone just has been subconsciously taught, like only say no to the bad things and like yes to the good.
Well, I think there's a quote, right, which is there's no such thing as a bad idea, and ultimately that's true in a lot of contexts. And to kind of contextualize your example, having seen it in real life, is like, I work with loads of startups, have helped grow lots of businesses, and sometimes the best startups are usually by the founders who have been and failed before, primarily because the first time they did it, they had that kind of drive, but it wasn't based on kind of like the failure of experience, or where trying to execute everything sometimes kind of didn't quite work, and then the second time round it was more of that bit more balance, bit more composure, bit more discipline, bit more kind of sensible nature to it. And even if it was a different product that was less attractive or kind of less likely to make it, often they've made it more successful because of those kind of lessons they've learned. So stuff is going to happen outside of your control. Like, you cannot get upset with stuff that is outside of your control. Yeah. What you can be upset of is the stuff that is inside your control, and you don't do anything about it.
Well, I mean, we can't get a better note than that, really. Like literally,
you have that quote for me.
Yeah, that's the quote by Rohan. Like, one thing I've also like learned that massively that I want to share as well is just you can be like super proactive, and what I've learned is sometimes like the proactivity, if it's not matched with like the professionalism, it's not like enough. And I thought that like really shocked me, because I think I was on a video call, and this is also for people out there, if you're doing video calls, don't be in your pajamas, because people take that seriously. And luckily I got this very honest lady who was like, this doesn't fly in the real world, like, burst my bubble, hurt me a lot, but it had to be done, because I realized.
I think that's probably an example where like practically it wouldn't make sense to be in your pajamas in that kind of conversation. I think there's a fine line between like needing to be yourself, right, for an inclusivity and kind of other purposes, but knowing like what the right setting is for what kind of actions, behaviours, kind of dress codes or whatever else. So I think it's important that people can always be themselves and express themselves the right way, but
to an extent.
To an extent, and in the right settings, and also knowing like who you're talking to, who you're dealing with, and how do you find that kind of even medium in a lot of places where it's not kind of like, I remember when I started in recruitment, I used to have to wear a suit to work in my first job, and nothing wrong with wearing a suit.
We love a suit.
I hate wearing a suit. Do you know what I mean? Like I like, part of the reason I joined my business was because I got to wear what I wanted, and actually the people I was dealing with were in the same clothes as I was, and that felt more natural to me, and it felt better for them dealing with me versus this formal guy in a suit. So I think it's knowing what the right balance is and trying to kind of work towards that, but not diminishing yourself by any means. And I think that's the thing which all of society is learning in a lot of ways, which is kind of like, how do you find ways from everyone to kind of to get along in the right ways, but also for people to kind of find what's important to them, and other people kind of find the balance as well.
Okay, well, I don't think we have any more time. So, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much for joining the podcast. And we'll see what our next guest will be.